I saw a video of a woman injecting a patient at the back of her Corsa with no gloves. She was just injecting lip filler.
We're all in this, well, we should be, because we genuinely care about patients.
Yeah. What's some of the top tips that you give to someone who's trying to replicate what you've done to create a global brand? Hello and welcome to The Aesthetic Edge, the podcast where we talk about all things aesthetics. Today I have a lovely guest, Rebecca, who's joining us, and she's going to be telling us about how she built her skin empire. Really useful information to tell us how to grow a global brand. Rebecca, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me on.
Of course. Why don't we start off with you telling us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, so I have been in the industry probably for about 12 years. I started off in the spa industry. So I'm a non-medic, trained in beauty therapy, went and worked in the spa industry, worked with some really big brands, and got headhunted to work in a leading spa. Realised that there wasn't a lot of money in it, being totally honest, and I didn't know whether it was for me, but I was really interested in the skincare side of the spa industry. So came out of the industry for a while, focused on a marketing career, and then a few years later got the opportunity to work with a private GP who owned a practice. And I was really lucky that I went and worked with a few private families, and it was more medical led. And within that facility, I then had the opportunity to work with lots of medical skincare brands, one of them being Zeo Skin Health, which I love and have used their protocols for years. And then I worked alongside the doctor for a few years, learn more of the medical side of our industry, and then decided to really focus on skin, and really push it myself and play around with lots of amazing products that we've got in the industry now.
Okay, wonderful. So you mentioned Zedo in particular. You said you really love and you've been using their protocols for years. What do you love about the Zedo brand?
It's so results driven. So there is every paper in the world to back up what they're saying that the products do, and the results speak for themselves. So we have a massive percentage rate that, you know, people get the results that they come in and want and achieve within a 12-week period, and products that they can stay on, you know, as a lifestyle brand. So I just find them one of the best lines out there to achieve one kind of every skin concern that we've got.
That's the thing. I think a lot of the products out there, they're not necessarily medical, so they can't treat the medical conditions like acne and hyperpigmentation. They're sort of very vague, and they say, will improve your skin quality, but what does that actually mean? And one thing I do love about the Zedo, which I'm familiar with as well, is the fact that they have dedicated guidelines for each individual skin condition. Is this something that you use in your own clinics as well?
Yeah, no, to be honest, I've worked with Zeo for such a long time that we're quite kind of lucky. We're mixologists. I kind of work with a lot of the products within the line, but I would never kind of mix product houses together in a protocol. I do try and stick to just using one product brand in a protocol, just because we get better results. But we definitely play around with them 100%, especially the retinols. They're kind of like the best things to play around with. Working on different layers of the skin, helping with the pigmentation. So yeah, definitely, they are results driven. We do get the results. So
yeah, absolutely. We were having a very interesting discussion beforehand where you were saying that you really liked the retinol wrinkle and repair cream.
Wrinkle and texture.
And you say that outperforms tretinoin. And tell us why you think that.
So just because I find, it works in the dermis layer of the, epidermal and dermal junction, and it's fantastic for scarring. So I work a lot on scar tissue. So
difficult to treat.
So difficult to treat. And to get the result as well that your patient wants the outcome of, and it's managing that expectation, isn't it, as well? But it's really good to combine it with a microneedling protocol. So I will always whack a wrinkle and texture repair in a microneedling protocol because we get the results from it. the downtime, we have to manage. It's retinol, we get anticipated, reactions, but I find that I get less with wrinkle and texture repair than I do tretinoin.
Yeah, a lot of patients can't handle the redness and the
Yeah.
irritation and the flaking that occurs with tretinoin. It's just a bit too harsh on the skin, even with the 0.025%, which is the lowest percentage we can give. We were discussing before, I quite like adapalene, but you're definitely making me want to try the wrinkle and repair. Definitely, yeah, that sounds really good.
Yeah, definitely. I've used it for years, and we just get the most incredible results from it.
You have fabulous skin, so I'll just use your skin as a template, and I'll try it myself. So what sparked off the interest in skincare from the very beginning? Why skincare over anything else?
So I always just had an interest in it. So I was really lucky as I was kind of like growing up. I was always taken to Ragdale Hall. Actually, I don't know whether you're familiar of it. In Leicestershire.
My wife is going there next weekend.
No way.
Yeah, she is.
How weird is that?
It's her first time away from the baby in like 11 months. So it's like go and have fun. Yeah, no, Ragdale.
Wow,
yeah, it's beautiful down here.
It's absolutely stunning. So I was really lucky growing up. As a family, we used to go to Ragdale Hall, and I don't know, I just had this fascination with treatments and making people feel good, and they used to do this like teenage facial, and I remember my dad used to be like, "Oh, just go and have it," and I used to just think, "Wow, this is an amazing experience," and it just sparked off my interest, and then it goes into kind of like a more personal journey. So I went and trained, which my family are full of academics and were really disappointed that I went and trained as a beauty therapist.
But look how successful you've become. It worked out.
Which I really want to kind of change in the industry, having that kind of like perception. But I went and did my training, and was meant to go to university, didn't go to university, and headed out into the industry. And whilst I was working for the GP, my mum actually had skin cancer really, really badly, and had to have facial reconstruction, and it even more so kind of fueled me to go into the field.
The importance of skin and taking care of it. Yeah, absolutely.
We're not, 10 years ago, even, we weren't educated on sunbeds, we weren't educated on SPF, we weren't told the damage that it can do on our skin, and I think now unfortunately we're seeing what you have
the damage of that
10-15 years ago, but she had facial reconstruction, and I was like, right, I'm sat in a clinic with millions of pounds of machinery that can help, and I just thought, right, what can I do to really improve this? And then within her journey, I just found that I just loved being able to change the skin structurally, not just topically, and just delved into it, and from there just had this fascination with really fixing texture, scar tissue, and that obviously comes along with acne pigmentation.
And do you know what? People think that what we do can be considered a little bit superficial. We're trying to make people prettier, but actually, when you improve someone's skin, whether it's scarring, whether it's acne scarring, you're giving them a sense of themselves back. Like, it affects your self-confidence so much, and even to the point where you can save someone's life just by informing them about the importance of using SPF, because that patient who you taught SPF about might never have used it, and they might have got skin cancer in the future. So it's actually so helpful in the medical setting, as well as making them look a little bit better as well.
Absolutely. I think that's kind of the perception that I really, from doing podcasts and kind of coming out into social media more, I think that's what I really want to change, is that people kind of just look at us, or not so much medics, but especially someone like myself, a non-medic, a girl in the industry, people kind of just look at us and think, oh, she just rubs people's faces all day. But there's so much more to that. I'm out there because I just think, right, we need to educate people, and this is these topics. Where do you go for that kind of education? Now it is online. You've got TikTok, you've got Instagram. They're amazing platforms for education. But realistically, when someone comes in for a facial, that person should be an educator to tell the person on having the treatment, how do you preserve your skin, how do you keep it safe from external factors, so I do heavily focus on that.
I'm glad you said that, because that's actually a huge issue in the industry, where people are just assuming, like, there is an opinion out there that non-medical practitioners should not be dealing with the skin. It's not an opinion I share, but what would you say to these people?
I see both sides, and that's me being totally honest. I think as someone that's gone through, a beauty therapy course, is the training up to where it should be? Well, that was, gosh, I don't want to say how many years ago, but was it at the time where it should be?
Yeah.
Absolutely not. I learn everything from the industry being around medics,
Yes.
and I put myself in that position. So I very much took myself out of a spa setting and knew that I wanted to only be around medics and learn off you guys. And then that gives me the education to educate somebody else. But I also think it's down to the practitioner, right? And I knew how important education was, so I constantly put myself on courses. And another reason that I loved Zeo Skin Health was they were heavily into education, so I constantly got put on course after course after course, which at one time it was only medic led.
Yeah.
So I was very fortunate that I was put in those circles to be able to learn.
I also just think it's important to go to the person who's most experienced at what they're doing. So, for example, if you want to go for surgery, you go to a plastic surgeon.
Yeah.
If you want to have injectables, you go to a doctor or a dentist or nurse, someone who's anatomically knowledgeable to have those sort of treatments. But if you want something done to your skin, go to a skin specialist who knows everything about skin and is familiar with all the products, and that's something that you do. So it makes perfect sense to do that.
Absolutely. But I think also put yourself, go... the consumer knows kind of where they want to sit in the market, but it's always I always do believe that we should work alongside medics, because we have that support and you can bounce off each other in the clinics.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
I can go and ask for your opinion. If someone has a reaction, I've got a second opinion on that, and I think that's really, really important. I don't think it's helpful if you're just solely working on your own. You need to work as part of a community and all bounce off each other.
Yeah, of course. And there's a lot. And I think something that the listeners would love to learn from you is how you managed to grow such a wonderful global brand. So what were some of the pivotal moments that you've gone through to create this global brand that you've done?
I mean, it's been really hard work.
I bet.
Really hard work. But I think a few of the areas that I really focused on was one that I've touched on already, was education. I really made that a focus. I made sure I was on every Zoom call there was, especially through COVID. I was constantly sat there. I did the road mapping on Zeo Skin Health probably 3 times. I am a massive nerd, so anything that I can learn, I'm like a sponge. I want to know what it is. So education was one. We were talking about this before, but I don't believe in selling a product just because they endorse us, which
it's a big problem in the industry.
Yeah.
It's less about the science, it's more about how much money can this product make by fooling the public into thinking that it actually works.
Yeah, moisturizer.
Yes, case in point. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think people are more educated now, and I think that people know that a cream isn't a magic wand anymore.
Yeah.
But I think that's people buy into my knowledge and what I'm telling them. If they come in to see me, they trust me that the cream that I give them isn't just a high street cream that isn't going to do anything. They have to know that I believe in it and that I've read the papers and that I know that it's going to be results driven. Otherwise, what's the point? And I think as well, being consistent with my patients. I talk about, again, this a lot, but I think another thing in the industry that is not brought up enough, and it should be, is client confidentiality.
Yes. Yeah.
So I have always had it plumbed into me, clinic after clinic. I've been very lucky. I know that that I've worked in incredible clinics, but that was something that was always really plumbed in to me, and
it builds that trust, doesn't it?
It's built clients for life. Yeah. And I think that needs to be spread out in the industry more, because that wasn't something that I was taught in, when I went to college. Nobody taught me that. Sign a form, but that was their health form. But what gets told to you in that room, and a clinic environment is really, really intimidating. For me and you, it's not, because it's where we go. It's our office.
It's work.
Yeah. But if we take that away, it's actually a really, really, really intimidating environment for somebody.
So it's very vulnerable for them to go to somewhere where you know that people are going to say, okay, this is what's wrong with your skin. Obviously, if it's you and me, we're going to do it in a much nicer way. Some people don't quite share that skill set, and it can be really scary for the patient. So making sure that they feel comfortable in the environment that you've created for them ensures a much more comfortable experience for them.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think that was one of the main things for me that I really wanted to focus on with patients as well, is that they feel safe where I put them.
So what have been obviously building the brand has been difficult, but so what have been the challenges that you faced when growing this brand of yours?
Oh my God.
How many?
Literally, where do I start? Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, you've got to swim, not sink in an oversaturated market. So
people use that as an excuse all the time, right? I hear all the time, even with injectables, the market's saturated. How can I possibly do well? The market was saturated when I started 7 years ago. It was saturated when my mentors started 15 years ago. It's always going to be saturated.
It is. It's really saturated. And I think it's putting yourself in a niche or making sure that you focus on your beliefs and people will naturally follow you. And also it's practicing what you preach. You know, I heavily document my life and what I do, and I really do anything that I tell my patients to do, I'm doing it myself constantly. You know, I go on health retreats, I'm constantly doing treatments to myself. I would only use products that I would use on my skin on theirs. So I think it's really getting the patient to buy into what you're doing as well, and knowing that you're completely authentic and what you're trying to tell them.
Yeah, of course. People can see through when you're just trying to fake it.
Yeah.
They always say the number one rule, and especially when it comes to social media, is just to be your authentic self.
Yeah.
People can tell when you're trying to be something different.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing as well, which actually a patient brought out to me the other day, which I didn't even realise that I did it, but is that when they're coming to you, and not to oversell, and you know, we're all told in this industry, you know, when we go to our medical conferences, you know, you need to sell and you need to think about how much money you make at, you know, your revenue. But actually, we're all in this, well, we should be, because we genuinely care about patients.
Yeah.
And that should be whilst, you know, that
The driving factor.
Yeah, that should be.
It's not necessarily all the time. Yeah.
We know that that's not there, you know, all the time. But I think it's saying to patients when they're coming in, you know, if they don't need that treatment done, then they don't have that. And actually they buy into you a lot more. Because we're not there, we shouldn't be there to oversell. We should be there for their concern and to be treating that.
Yeah, of course. And in terms of, obviously you're international, you see patients in different countries. How does that work? Is it video consultations? Do you find that you're able to actually examine the skin in appropriate detail in order to give a treatment plan?
Yeah, so we offer, so in the UK, we have 3 locations, and then in the Middle East, I do global consultations as well. So, and we can ship globally. That's something that I think we all learned to do in lockdown, was to treat our patients over Zoom calls. And we've kind of navigated that. So I do consultations globally. And then in our London clinics, we treat heavily as well. So we give both aspects, which works really well. And it's actually fascinating. And it's amazing to meet so many different people around the world that are interested in, especially kind of like the British medicine that we have here. And that we're kind of seen as quite leading in the industry. At the
forefront, of course,
Yeah, which is nice.
What about the challenges in treating people of different skin colours? That must be something that arises when you're treating people from all over the world.
Yeah.
How do you discover what particular products work for what particular ethnicity?
Yeah, so I feel like you are in medical school, but you're not in my world, and you know, you're taught basics, Fitzpatrick's of the skin. That's it. Yeah. And you know, when you're dealing with lasers, you know, you have to navigate it slightly different. But it's again down to education. There's been a lot of trial and error, and also just knowing that what treatments are suitable for your skin type. And that's why I specialize in microneedling, because it's an amazing treatment that's totally versatile. And you know, it doesn't really hit off hyperpigmentation. It is very rare there's contraindications. So that again, that's that's a treatment.
But like you said, education is a big problem, especially when it comes to microneedling, because I'm not sure if you've seen this in your own practice, but when microneedling is advertised, it's mostly towards Fitzpatrick type 1 and 2, and it can help with hyperpigmentation, because essentially you're breaking up the extra pigmentation or lack of pigmentation that they have. But the issue comes when you have Fitzpatrick 3 and above, so people who have sort of Asian skin color, so basically me or darker. And the issue with them is when you do microneedling, you can make tiny little holes in the skin, which causes the pigment to actually fall deeper. So people go to have microneedling who are Fitzpatrick 3 or above, and their pigmentation actually gets worse. This is why it's such a massive problem in the industry that we only tend to focus on lighter skin tones, and the people who are Fitzpatrick 3 and below, or 3 and above rather, they really miss out and they get worsening complications. Is this something that you've seen in your own practice as well?
Yeah, so obviously, especially dealing with patients kind of globally, absolutely. But I think it's down to education, isn't it? And it's knowing, you know, people think when you're, especially with microneedling, just hit the skin as hard as you can, and as much trauma is better. Yes, okay, like you're saying, a Fitzpatrick 1 and 2, that genuinely is the case. But when you're dealing with different Fitzpatricks, then no, absolutely not. It's about working on different depths, on different areas of the skin. You know, what's their lifestyle like? Are they in the sun? Because you need to factor that in. Are they wearing SPF? Because if they're not, well, then you're going to make the whole thing a lot worse. You know, after microneedling, you know, we have protocols that we use retinols now. So, you know, there is so much that we can do. It's just, again, it's just
so many nuances
of the practitioner. And there's so many options now as well, which is great. So the science is just phenomenal what we have like in our toolbox for patients.
It can also be a bit dangerous though as well, because I'm not sure if you've seen this in your practice, but I've seen patients who get their hands on 1 millimeter thick dermal rollers, which you think, oh, 1 millimeter thick, that's not bad, but you and I both know that although that might be okay-ish on the rest of the skin, but under the eyes, I've seen patients ruin their under eye skin because they're using products that they shouldn't be, because they might see something on YouTube that it will help with them. So I think this is where you and I come in, and we can educate our patients about the right ways to do it. Of course, using microneedling products that you guys use pneumatic pens.
So I used to use a pen. I now actually use a medical device from Germany.
Okay.
And it's a machine. But I have had the most incredible results. And as you know, it's about the needle and where the origin of the needle. So, you know, ours are medical led, totally sterile, and we know that. We know where they're getting made.
God, needle sharing is a big issue as well in this country. It's awful.
So, I actually got told this the other day, which I genuinely couldn't believe. So I got told that somebody went and had microneedling done. And, I mean, you should hear the practitioner opening the needle.
Yeah, they change needles every time. They should.
They should. But I got told that the needle was already loaded and it looked like it had been used.
Yeah.
I mean...
It's crazy. I mean, you can literally give someone, you know, herpes, HIV, you know, all hepatitis. You can give someone that just by showing needles. But the thing is, like we said before, this is when people or practitioners are prioritizing money over patient safety. It's a horrible situation that we need to get fixed in the UK, hopefully sometime soon. But whether it happens or not.
I think that's the problem, isn't it? I think in the UK, even though we're seen as kind of, you know, leading in the industry, we definitely have some areas that need to be looked at, and patient safety is one, because that categorically I can't even believe goes on, because, you know, we should absolutely cannot be sharing needles, or, you know, I hear about it in injectables from the doctors. You know, there is clinics out there that use half a vial of filler and then put another needle on or use it on somebody else.
It's ridiculous.
And I'm just like, but then if a patient's paying £50 for lip filler, then
what do they expect? Not in a horrible way, but what do you expect? Filler is expensive.
Absolutely.
A good filler syringe is going to cost you at least about £100 per mil. So if they're paying £50 for it, what are you actually putting in your face? I saw a video going viral on TikTok. Yes, I do watch TikTok sometimes, forgive me. But I saw a video of a woman injecting a patient at the back of her corset with no gloves. She was just doing lip filler. She was lying on her friend's lap and she was injecting her lips. It was crazy. The lack of regulation in this country is absolutely astounding.
I mean, I heard the other day on TikTok, there's a lady in Liverpool, isn't there, that's doing facelifts in the back of
I saw that too.
hair clinic.
Yeah.
I mean,
And this is the thing. So this is why I say stay in your lane, stick to what you know, allow the people who are plastic surgeons to do the facelifts, and allow injectors to do the injecting and skin specialists to do the skin.
Yeah.
So in terms, so you really have, it's very impressive how you developed such a wonderful skincare brand all by yourself. And it really has become global. What's some of the top tips that you'd give to someone who's trying to replicate what you've done to create a global brand? What would you say to them?
So you've really got to love what you do, because
you clearly do.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think the most important thing is what my patients buy into is the patient care. And I will go above and beyond for that. I don't clock off at 5 o'clock. I will work on do patients when I need to, especially VIPs, whatever. We go above and beyond for that. I think educate yourself properly. Like I said, I've gone on about that loads, but I think that's really important. And I think you have to take responsibility for that. You can't just blame brands that you're buying into, either that being your machine brands or your skincare brands. They're only going to give you so much. And if you want to stand above kind of the crowd, then you need to go and educate yourself properly. And put yourself in, within the right circles. Do you want to be aligned with a medic? Do you want to be aligned with a plastic surgeon?
100%. Always aligning yourself with people who know more than you. I'm
Absolutely.
a big fan of being the dumbest person in the room.
Yeah,
because you're always learning more.
Yeah. So I love working with you medics. I absolutely love it, because like just now, I'm learning stuff all the time. And I think that's really, really important. So I think just focusing on those areas and just making sure that always your patient comes first, and that's your driver. That needs to be your driver, not money, not just having a clinic and it's what do I do in life? Oh, I can go and inject and earn a load of money. It is having that patient safety, and then getting a reputation in the industry that people, when you're not in the room, that people are referring you to other people. I mean, what a compliment is that?
Yeah.
So I think that those key and core kind of pillars that you can put towards kind of like a business strategy will really help you in the industry.
Wonderful. And just honing in on the social media. Now, you've amassed a really great following. What sort of things have you done to try and improve your following? Have you used ads, or is it all just been consistent? Is it trying to give really valuable advice? What was your technique in growing your social media following?
Genuinely, when everyone asks me, we don't pay for ads, which is something that I'm really proud of. But it's day to day. I live and breathe this, and it is genuinely telling your story to everybody.
Authenticity, yeah.
Completely, yeah. And I go and get treatments off other people, other practitioners, other clinics. I'll go and do a health retreat. I will try a new retinol and peel for 5 days and document it. I think it's just absolutely living and breathing it, and people just buy into that naturally. And making sure that you're staying on the ball on the trends as well. I never ever I try my hardest not to stay stagnant with anything. Constantly going to conferences, constantly asking you guys, what's coming out, what do we think of this, and keeping up with the latest trends, because that's what your your customer wants. And just finding your own lane within the industry, and finding what your patients want. And I always ask my patients as well, I'm like, are you happy with the service? Are you happy with what we're posting?
Feedback's so important, yeah, of course.
What is it you want from us? And then and kind of going off there as well.
Perfect. Well, this has been a fascinating conversation. I know you said that you like being around medics because you learn a lot from them. I've learned a lot from you today. So thank you so much for joining me today, Rebecca. Guys, I hope that was useful. You got some really good tips in how to grow a global brand and how to deal with a client retention. We really hope you enjoyed this episode. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. We want to get this information to as many people as possible. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next time.